Hey, welcome back. I'm Miss Mandy, and today we're talking about some pretty big vocabulary words in the world of finance. And if you're like me, it might be difficult to wrap your head around all the moving parts that you hear about and research on your way to building wealth. And I think just having a simple breakdown of what these are, where money usually goes, and how you can switch it up to benefit you and get more money coming your way. All right, so let's just dive into these categories: income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. And I've been doing a lot of research on these. I like to attend YouTube University, and I've been watching a lot of Robert Kiyosaki's videos lately about these categories. And he really, he defines things pretty simply. Excuse me. Assets are anything that puts money in your pocket. And liabilities are anything that takes money away from your pocket. And I think he was one of the first people out there in the finance world to say that your home is not an asset. The home that you live in is not an asset because it takes money out of your pocket in the form of a mortgage if you have one, or if you don't, in the form of property taxes and maintenance. So yes, think of it that way. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. And a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Now, these definitions are very vague, and they're vague for a reason, because anything, whether it's a tangible thing, a business, or an idea, anything that puts money in your pocket is an asset. So you could own a van like I have right here. We have a 7-seater van, and it's a liability because we had a car payment. We don't need more, but we had a car payment. It requires oil changes and gas and maintenance, checkups and stuff like that. So it takes money out of our pocket. It's not a way we earn our income, but we could. You could be an Uber driver and you could earn some money from that. And that would turn our liability into an asset. But I want to take that a step further and say that it only becomes an asset when it covers the expense of everything that takes care of it. Like all the maintenance that goes into it, all of the car payments or anything, if it cash flows, which is a big word in the world of finance. If you want to know what I think about cash flow, I have a bunch of other videos on it. Please go check those out. But for today, I think you should only count an asset as an asset if it brings in enough income to cover any expense associated with that thing. All right, so where do most of us put our money? Myself included in this, to be very honest. I have nothing in that asset category except my job. I have a lot of things in the liability category. So now what's the issue now? The issue now is how do I, like I said in my example of the van, how do I turn my liabilities into assets? And what I did today was I listed out some of the big ones that I could think off of the top of my head. Where do I spend the most money? Well, my house, my mortgage payment, and what could I do to turn that into a liability? What could I do to turn my house into an asset where it makes me more money than it costs me? Well, I could rent out my house, right? But that becomes a problem because where am I going to live? So that's off the list for me. We also have a dog that's not very friendly with strangers, so we can't really Airbnb a room. We have little kids and they get up in the middle of the night and our walls are not the thickest, so we can't really rent out rooms for that reason also. So that's kind of out the window. I'm sure there's other ways to make money on your house, but that's the big one that came to my mind. And after I kind of marked that off the list, I sort of just threw it out and moved on to the next one. So the next one is my car. I could Uber, or I could Lyft and, earn money from picking up passengers and taking them where I need to go. But that requires me to have time for a job, because that effectively is a second job, right? You have to be present to drive the person where they want to go. So that's kind of off my list too, because I don't need another job. I work full-time as it is. I'm a full-time mom. I take care of the house. I have a lot of demands on my time already, and I don't want to miss any more time with my kids than I already am. In fact, the goal is to spend less time working, not more time working, right? So that's out for me too. Well, then I started to think kind of creatively, So what could I, when am I not using my car? Could I actually, is there a program out there that lets people pick up my car, take it where they need to go for the day, run their errands, and then come back and pay a fee for that? Yeah, there is. So lots of possibilities there, but then it comes with risk, right? You have to think about all the risk. And I'm sorry, this is not very organized. I'm just kind of talking it through with you as I come. I didn't have any notes, and this is just what's on my mind today. So back to the van. It does come with some risk. If somebody else is driving your car, then you have insurance considerations. You have, considerations about what happens if there's damage. You have considerations about what happens if your car is trashed, right? Because this is a van, right? People are probably gonna use it because it has a lot of seating that's accessible for kids. And kids are messy. If I could show you the back seat, you'd really see what I mean, but they're freaking messy. So I'm not sure if that's something I would want to do with my personal vehicle that we have worked very hard to attain. But it is a way to turn a liability into an asset. It's there. The next one, my kids are a huge liability money-wise. We are not talking emotion. Emotion really doesn't have a lot of place in money discussions, if you ask me. But money considerations only. My kids do not make me money, but they do cost me quite a lot of money, right? Well, there's no way I'm going to do anything that would turn my kids into an asset versus a liability, right? You can't send kids off to work camps because they cost you too much money. We decided to have the kids, and we love them, and they are our precious children. So not to mention that that's illegal, but you wouldn't charge your little kids rent, right? That's silly. So that's all out, right? That's all out. And my pet's about the same way. There's not really any way I can make money off of my pets, especially one that's very cautious around strangers. All right, well, what else do I have in that liability column? I have debt, student loans. I could turn that into an asset by getting rid of it, because year by year I'm accruing interest on those student loans. And when I pay it off, I stop paying that interest. So that's how I could get a return on my investment with my student loans, turn that liability into an asset, free up some cash flow by not having to pay those monthly bills. And then we have credit and debt. We have a mortgage, like I said. And is there a way that we could use that debt to make us money? And I think the answer to that is yes. And this is how we're planning to do it. We haven't got there yet, but we are starting a business, as I've talked about in several other videos. My husband's starting a food truck, and we plan to finance his food truck with a loan. So we are using what Robert Kiyosaki calls other people's money, and lots of people call it that. But we are not putting, $100,000 of our own money up for a nice decked out food truck. We are asking the bank to loan us that money. And yes, debt is a liability because you have to pay it back. But what are we buying with that debt, and how is it going to serve us? So we are funding a business which we plan to make a profit on. So in time, we can not only pay back that loan, but we will receive cash flow from it. And that makes that debt into an asset instead of a liability. Because yes, we took out the money, but what we did with it, that's what was important. And that's where your thinking has to kind of shift. Instead of being the person saying, oh man, that's risky. Yeah, things are risky. What you do with your money is risky if you want to succeed. But it comes down to, do you trust what you're putting your money into? And that's why I'm such a big fan of being financially educated about what you invest in. So do I trust that a business run by me and my husband will succeed? Heck yeah, I do, because we're going to do everything in our power to make it succeed. Which means that there is no option for us to fail big, right? as Oprah says, fall forward instead of having something to fall back on. We're going to fall forward and move up in life. So yeah, do I trust what I'm putting my money into? If I was to invest in real estate, I know enough about the real estate market, I feel, to invest in the real estate market. I just want to do it without having another job, like I said before. So I'm researching ways to do that. Now, let's talk a little bit about situation. I'm almost home here, but we're going to spend this last few minutes on personal situations because I've said it before. I've said it in this video. I've got a lot of demands on my time. I don't need another job, and I don't have a lot of money to put into things right now. I have bills. I have kids and expenses that we have to pay, and those are non-negotiable expenses for me. I'm never not going to pay my mortgage so that I can invest that money. I'm never not going to buy my kids diapers and food to eat because I'd rather invest that money for tomorrow. That's just insane, right? If you're single, you have a lot more freedom with your money. If you're married but don't have kids, you have a lot more freedom with your money and your time. But it's a lot higher barrier to entry when you have a spouse to pull into those discussions because you want to do this together. It's a lot higher barrier to entry when you have kids because whatever you do affects their lives too. And as parents, we want to make our kids' lives better, not worse, right? So it's harder to take risks because you don't want to end up your family up in a poor situation. So yes, the barrier to entry is higher and it's harder to get into. What you have to do is find ways to increase the income instead of decreasing expenses. You find ways to get assets, to attain more assets instead of more liabilities. So that's the process that I'm going through right now. I'm going to keep you posted every step of the way. I honestly thought of a few pretty creative ones today that I'm not ready to share just quite yet, but stay tuned for that and updates on that, and leave in the comment box below any liability, any way that you turned liabilities into assets. And don't forget to hit that like button. That's all I've got for you today. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.